good morning. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and share with you today and a message that I've got on character being a foundation for leadership. Before I start, how many veterans, EMS, police officers do we have in the audience? Can you raise your hands? So let's give them a round of applause. Right. I have a feeling that as we go forward in the world, we're going to need those people, and those of us that have taken the oath of office in the military have never actually relinquished that oath. We may be needing it more in the future than we probably know right now. All right. To start, I'd like to just say a quick prayer, if we can all bow in prayer. Father in heaven, we're so grateful for the life that you've given us. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunities to meet each other, to be able to add value to one another, to make a difference for each other. I just pray, Father, that you help me get the right words out today, and just ask the Holy Spirit guide my voice and the message, that we can make a difference and add value to each person that's here today. We thank you, praise you, and glorify you in Christ's name. Amen. All right. So I am Dane Deutsch, and I'm a teacher by profession or by degree, but a coach by profession. So you can just call me Coach or Coach Dane. If you happen to get an autographed book of mine at the end, I'll probably sign it Coach on there because I go by Coach. Even having taught at the university at Stout for the last 7 years, I taught cyber technology ethics. I spent a great deal of time making sure that the students knew that I wasn't a professor, I wasn't a Mr. Dane or Mr. Deutsch, I was Coach, because it was all about a two-way street. So hopefully the message that I have today will resonate. And afterwards, I'll have plenty of time. I'll stick around if anyone would like to ask questions. But as we're going through this, if you have a really pressing question, don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask me while we're going through the presentation as well. Okay? All right. So I always like to dedicate my presentations to someone. Today, I'm going to dedicate it to my dad, who passed away about 2 years ago. He was a military, retired veteran as well. He always taught me that building and protecting your character is the most important thing you can do in life. And in 1989, I found out that my dad was dying, and I've already spent 5 years in the country of Turkey serving our country. I was the chief of maintenance for all of the IT in the country of Turkey. And then a major command general found out about me and wanted me to come to the Pentagon as his exec officer. And I had initially agreed, and then found out my dad was passing away, and they didn't think that he would probably make it till Christmas. So we decided to resign my regular commission, which you normally get in the academies, and my reserve commission, come home and spend the final months with my dad at home. So that's what we did. And when I got home, I took what I learned from the University of Wisconsin Superior in kinesiotherapy, because I did pre-med there through my commission in the Air Force. Even though they put me in IT, if you took calculus, they stuck you in IT automatically if you didn't finish your degree for your doctorate. But I started kinesiotherapy with my dad, and actually the disease quit deteriorating, and he lived for another 30 years. And as I said, just passed away the last 2 years. Got to see all his grandkids, my mom as well. And so very fortunate and blessed to have had him as my guide, my mentor, and my partner. So let me ask this question of you. What if you knew you were going to die very soon? What would you do? How would you act? What would be the main focus? Probably we would go right back to what the real meaning of life is, right? Friends, family, relationships. We've probably all heard people say, if you're on your deathbed or you're in your final days, you probably are not going back and thinking about how much more money you can make, or how much more authority you could have, or whatever happens to be your positions. You're thinking about things that really meant a lot to you at that time, right? And probably that means that you were thinking about your character, because all those things that really don't matter will float away. They will all dissolve and filter away, and you'll be left thinking about what really meant something to you in life. Probably shed all those other things that don't have any meaning, right? Let me ask you this, then, what can you take with you? You've probably heard people say you can't take anything with you. But I beg to differ with that. And today I'm going to show you why and share with you the fact that actually you can take something with you. If you're curious. And in the Bible, we hear a lot about fruits like honesty and trustworthiness and things like that. But the same token, when we go home, we are going to have a crown with jewels based on our works here on earth. Personality is not the same as your character. You and I, when we were 3, our personality is probably already developed. You're the same person you were when you were 3. But we're adults now, right? So we probably can actually put on a better facade. We can hide it better. Yeah. But reality, it's still us. So we're just big kids. Agree with that? Yeah. So our character is something we can develop, though. And so in this case, the question I would ask is, why not live every day as if it was your last? So that's my goal for today, is to share this message about leading with character. In our world today, it's pretty crazy. Don't you agree? We all have different things that we've been through in the last couple of years, especially with COVID, pressures and challenges of life that we've never even had before, many of us, right? So I've got a couple of goals today. Now, I told you we're just big kids. We probably all have ridden a big wheel or a tricycle in life, right? The wheel in the front of the tricycle or the big wheel is the big wheel. It's the character wheel. And so I talk about that as the character wheel. Also, competence wheels in the back. The 2 wheels in the back are supposed to be the same size. I'm a gymnastics coach, so I like to say they need to be balanced, right? And then the seat is the seat of courage. To do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. So I also want to coach you to be more intentional about growing as a leader. John Maxwell says, hey, growth is not something that just happens. I have to be intentional about growth. Growth with leadership. Growth with character is exactly the same thing. And character truly is the foundation of leadership. Well, there's a difference between success and significance. So I'm going to actually share with you a little bit about that, because success is more about adding value to yourself, where significance is about adding value to others. You can be successful, for instance, but not necessarily be significant in life. If we want to make a difference for other people, we want to add value to other people, we need to actually be significant for them. So I'm going to share with you some quotes and stories about character. All of these things that I'm talking about today are not philosophy. I was a cyber technology ethics teacher at Stella, but not philosophy ethics. It was character ethics, trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, empathy, loyalty. That's what I taught the students at Stella, not philosophy. It's real stuff. Today, I want to encourage us all as we go through this presentation. You can be leading with power, the aim of this group, but you can also be a champion of character. And we need more champions of character. And what better group to talk to than this group right here? If each one of us went out and taught, each one teach one, we will make a lot of an improvement in our culture, in our communities, our families, and even within ourselves. So I want to give you a great example of this. The story of Mikey, when I first got home and I was working with Dad to make sure that we could do what we could with his disease, and then eventually ended up not deteriorating his body anymore. I was subbing in all the schools because I was a teacher by degree. So one of the schools that I subbed in, which is in northern, towards Rice Lake, I got to the first day of school and I was on a long-term sub because the sub was gone for 3 or 4 weeks. And I got to my class. First 3 classes I had, and I was a phy ed teacher, so I was in the gym. Each teacher that came into the gym said, have you had Mikey yet? I was like, no, I haven't had Mikey yet. And they were pretty adamant about it. I was like, oh, this is a troublemaker. Mikey must be a real character, right? As day wore on, I kept thinking about this Mikey. I got done with the elementary school. I go over to the middle school, I eat lunch, and I walk to my next class at the middle school in the gym. It was like a picture out of Animal House movie. Kids were running everywhere. They were climbing up the bleachers. Even one had his butt in a basketball hoop. And I blew the whistle, no response, none. So I blew the whistle again and still no response. So one of the kids, the more quieter of the group, was standing next to me and I said, hey, do you know who Mikey is? As soon as I said the word Mikey, the entire gym went quiet. Just like in the movies, it was weird. And I had this group of kids scattered all over the place. And all of a sudden I could see some of them separate. And in the very back, there was an individual, one of the students walked up, got right in my face. And he said, "I'm Mikey. What do you want?" I was like, oh boy, this is the guy, right? I said, "Hey, Mikey, I want you to be a leader. I need a leader up here to help me with class today." Oh no, the complexion on his face changed. And he said, "I can't be a leader." I said, "Oh yeah, you can. It's not a problem. Just come up, stand right here on this mark. I'll lead with you. I'll teach you how to do it, and we'll do it together." So he did. Immediately, all the rest of the kids got in their positions, and we worked like that for the next 2 weeks. Never once did he act up. Not once. And my last day, I was in my office, and you know how gym locker rooms echo a lot? And I was doing the grade book, finalizing the grades, and I could hear the door close. I looked up, Mikey's back was to me, and he was finishing closing the door, and he turned around. He had these huge tears coming down his cheek. I said, "What's wrong, Mikey?" And he said, "Oh, Mr. D," he said, "You're the only teacher that has ever cared about me. What am I going to do now that you're leaving?" An amazing transformation in that student. Never once did I talk to him about his acting up or problems or anything else. It just helped him to navigate that same place he was trying to lead, but make it more, hey, we can actually make you a real leader. You don't have to act out. You can be constructive as a leader. So that was my story, Mikey, and that has resonated with us in the 33 years that we have had our gymnastics training center. We've trained thousands and thousands of kids over the years and impacted a lot of people. So our value that we can add to other people is huge. Sometimes we forget that in the chaos of life, right? So today I'm just trying to shed away a lot of that chaos and just really focus on why character might really help. With Mikey, it did. That little video you watched at the beginning about what will matter was by a man by the name of Michael Josephson. He's a friend of mine. He started the Institute of Ethics. And I brought this program into Rice Lake. And before I did, there was one cop in the school. When I brought it into Rice Lake, the principal teamed with me, and we created 15 teams that were composed of one teacher and one business together. And we just immersed Rice Lake in character counts. And it made a huge difference. Within a year and a half, the cop was gone, and we were doing really well. After a couple of years, the superintendent found out he had cancer. He retired. When the new superintendent came in, he immediately pulled the character counts program up. And I had trained all the K through 12 teachers by character counts. And I told them in the first 15 minutes of the class, I said, "Hey, if you ever pull this character counts program out of the system, out of your schools, you'll be worse than you were before." Today, we have 2 cops in the school. And probably a lot of you know that we have a lot of struggles and challenges in our schools these days, right? Being a teacher really hits home for me. Well, that program actually was bequeathed. Michael actually retired, and that program was bequeathed to Drake University. There's a university actually doing that now. And in this case, Michael's still out there and is still encouraging people to use that character counts program. It's composed of 6 pillars in particular: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and what he calls citizenship. But you could say it's loyalty, right? Loyalty to your country, kind of thing. Very important. And so he's emphasizing that we can all be leaders with character first. And we did make a difference for the Rice Lake schools. Today, John Maxwell Foundation, a couple of you are familiar with John Maxwell, has a program called iLead, which I'm not allowed to charge 1 penny for. Very professional. South Carolina superintendent of schools rolled it out across South Carolina and made a difference. You can actually go out and read about it in terms of less disciplinary problems and that kind of thing within a year and a half of instituting that program. We need more character out there. So how do we do that? So in this particular instance, I use this image of the tricycle or the big wheel to help garner the idea that, hey, the big wheel in the front is your character wheel. It's the most important wheel. All the spokes on it are things like the 6 pillars: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, right? And if you think of what's spokes on a wheel, used to be we could tweak those, right? So the wheel would actually spin true. Today, you don't have that much. It's all automatically done, right? But if you think about that, you're tweaking each of your character skills, and I call them that because you can actually work on character skills. If you want to more respect, to be more respectful, you have to practice respect, right? Same thing for fairness, caring, any of the other character skills that go along with it. So that front wheel I call the character wheel. The back two wheels I call the competence wheels. One of them is a technical wheel. And the other one is what I call the people skill wheel. Technical wheel, we all know that, right? You drive a car, bake a cake, do construction, teach a class. Those are technical things. But on the people side of the house, people skills side, you got leadership, teamwork, communication, problem solving, right? Critical thinking skills. And so those back two wheels are what most of us are used to thinking about. And then the seat of courage. Courage to make the right decision at the right time for the right reason. Very important. In this particular instance, the world is just crazy in a lot of different ways. Having grown up in Venezuela for 4 years when my dad was stationed there and spent 5 years in Turkey, I've been able to experience a lot of things overseas, especially in the Middle East. And the craziness isn't just all about us. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of challenges, a lot of chaos elsewhere in the world as well. Especially my last 5 years in Turkey, I understood that. We have some craziness at home too. How many of you saw this ad the last couple of weeks? Probably not real popular out there with mainstream media. University of Wisconsin lacrosse chancellor fired after he's making porn videos with his wife. Challenges are a lot. Lack of empathy in our healthcare system. We have a lot of nurses in our gym that come from different places. We have 250 kids in our gym average a week. We have 12 to 15 school districts. And so we have a lot of people in the healthcare system there. And one of the first things the nurses will tell you is there's a lack of empathy in our medical system today. Empathy is a character skill. And then cheating. I ask almost any of the kids in my gym when they're warming up for class, hey, is there cheating in your class or in your school? And they'll tell you right away, oh yeah, a lot. And it isn't just minor cheating. They'll have a answer sheet and they'll just pass it from one student to another and the teacher can't do anything about it. In this case, it isn't just cheating with the kids, but cheating with the teachers, the Atlanta school system. They actually changed the answers on the HCC tests for the kids so that they could actually get better ACT scores so they could get a larger grant. It's all about money, right? And of course, we talked about military, Air Force Academy. They expelled, this is 2020, at the end of 2020, 22 cadets for 2020 cheating scandal. It isn't just relegated to the Air Force Academy either, but the West Point folks also had a cheating scandal. So in this case, I just love this quote. Number one quote of the top 10 quotes on leadership in the war in Forbes is this one from Norman Schwarzkopf. General Schwarzkopf was the commander of the Gulf War. And he said, leadership is a potent combination of strategy and character. But if you must be without one, be without strategy. So he's even saying in the military, character is the most important. Yesterday, I talked to a colonel that just retired, and he's telling me all the problems they were having at the Pentagon. Almost every one of them boiled down to character. So you probably heard this. How many are business owners? Just out of curiosity. I probably have quite a few. Yeah. You go out and you hear people say, well, you need to think about mission, vision, values. That's how they put it. But in reality, we got that backwards. It should be values, your character values, that lead to vision, which once you have the vision, then that leads to the mission, right? It just seems like we've got the whole thing flipped upside down sometimes. So we've got a huge culture problem. And people talk to me all the time because I'm out talking to them about leadership. 36% of leadership or management is not developed well. And these are Gallup poll numbers. United States Air Force Academy, I mentioned to you, has a cultural alignment problem. Those of you that are in business know you probably already sense that you have an engagement problem. And it's not just a little one either. The real problem with the engagement is we've got 20% of our workforce engaged, 60% are disengaged. But what's really scary is 20% are actively disengaged. That means they're working against what we are trying to accomplish with our company. And that was by a recent poll from Gallup. So retaining talent is a challenge. Our superintendents are challenged in the schools, and then add technology on top, right? Polarization, probably no better way for us to be polarized than with the technologies we've got, our little smartphones, right? And now we have AI, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality. So one of the people that I listen to and that I teach from is Tristan Harris. He was the ethics guy at Google. And he quit Google because of the ethics issues. In fact, all of the people at Facebook, Instagram, Google, Amazon, YouTube, they have all quit, the top C-level people. And now they are whistleblowing and raising the red flag on the problem with addiction for social media and manipulation for artificial intelligence. We have a lot of challenges coming. It's not just we've got it here. What you're going to see coming in the future is going to be even more challenging than some of the things in the past, which means we have to do even more with character skills, right? That's the important part. So what are we to do? How can we make a difference? And I just want to make sure that you know, with all the negative, I had a positive at the beginning, all the negative, there is hope. Because each of you and me together, cumulatively, we could change the character of our culture, our community, and our family, just like we did with Rice Lake Schools. It's just that often leaders are not talking about character, and they're not infusing character education into the schools. How many of you, well, probably all of you have been to Quick Trip, right? If you go back to the bathrooms, there's little 5x7 frames back there, teamwork, communication, loyalty, right? Here. It isn't just for you and I necessarily, but it's also for their team that they're trying to communicate that with, right? Leaders of character are very important. And probably the best example of character-driven kind of leadership is with John Wooden, one of the most famous basketball coaches, maybe even coaches of all time. And he says, be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. So in his own words, this is John. Your character is what you really are. The character is much more important than what you are perceived. Hope it be good. The numbers, yes. So I wanted you to hear it from him, his own words, in his own voice. So that tricycle effect is a nice image, because I want to paint an image that when you leave here today, you can think about that front wheel as being a character wheel. That's the most important wheel. But of course, to get a balanced ride, and balance is a gymnastics term, right? You have to have all the wheels in place. So I call that front character wheel the character quotient, because that's where your character skills come from. The competence wheels I call the IQ, and we're all familiar with IQ. Your technical and your people skill, and then that seat of courage I call the EQ, your emotional quotient. How willing are you to make the right decision at the right time for the right reason, even if it causes you some pain, maybe monetarily or in some other way? Doing the right thing is still the right thing. A couple of you mentioned to me that you knew John Maxwell or even met him before. This is just a very telling kind of thing. Here's John's book, Developing Leader Within You. And I've been teaching that book since 2002. I was only licensed to teach one book at the time, and John only let us do that. It's interesting that chapter number 3, he titled The Most Important Ingredient of Leadership, Integrity. And as I've learned over time, as we grow through life from infant to time we're in school, the time we get married and so forth, we go from being an infant, not being able to care for ourselves, to eventually at the end of life, potentially not being able to care for ourselves again. And in those twilight years, a lot of people start thinking about character again. And it's very interesting because he redid this book here within the last couple of years. And so he calls this 2.0 now. Look at what he titled chapter 3, one of the changes he made in that book. The foundation of leadership is here. If that's the foundation of leadership, and we're leaders as fathers and husbands and other positions that we have in life, have we really made character that priority? That's the key. So having grown up in Venezuela and spent 5 years in Turkey, I know that there is a common language. It's a 4-letter word: care. No matter where you go around the world, people want to know that you care about them. Character is like your mark. Acting with care. It's a decision or a choice. It just doesn't happen by chance. Just like growth, leadership growth doesn't happen just by chance either. So sometimes we've lost some traditions. So I want to share a couple of those with you. Those of you that are military, we salute with our right hand, don't we? If we put our hand over our heart, it's our right hand that's over our heart. Why is that? Having grown up overseas, I can tell you, to some of my people who were stationed in Saudi, if you are caught stealing bread or you're going to get disciplined somewhere, we're going to cut off a finger, a hand, or an arm. And generally will be your right finger, hand, or arm, because you wipe yourself with your left. But by them disciplining you by taking off a finger or a hand or a right arm, you now are marked in society as having been a criminal, okay? Been disciplined for some reason. Bottom line to that is, there's more to this than that. If I shake hands with you, it means I don't have a weapon in my right hand. I trust you. I'm honoring you. It's a mutual respect, right? So when we salute with the right hand like this, I can see nothing to my right now. So anything to my left, and in the old days, like Alexander the Great, they had a shield on their left arm and their weapon in their right. So they always were looking to the left. The people that were in a position of honor, respect, and protection were always to the right. Does that make sense? So I'm saluting this way. So if you look in the Rose Garden, whenever the president has a guest there, that guest will always be to the president's right. I was a protocol officer in the Air Force. So a lot of this stuff is stuff that I had to learn in order to be able to honor the different officers that we had. So in the military, that salute is pretty important. It's mutual respect, but it's also honor. I want to take that to a next level. When Christ was ascended to heaven, on what side of God the Father did he sit? And why do you think he sat on the right-hand side? He died for us. He laid his life down for us. And God the Father was honoring, respecting him, and putting him in a position of protection. Isn't that amazing? Truly is. Let's take it one step further, and let's use that Christ character, if we can, to look at the marriage ceremony for a moment. Okay? For those of you that are dads who have given your daughters away, this will probably mean a lot more, maybe in some ways. Those of you that have daughters that you haven't given away, pay particular attention, okay? If I turn around here and we set this as an altar up in front, and you've got the groom and his family on the right, you have the bride and the bride's family on the left. Everybody with me? Okay. So when the father is walking down the aisle, which side of the father then, based on what I already told you about the salute in Christ, should the daughter be on from the father? On the right. The position of honor, respect, and protection. So the daughter's going to walk on the father's right. When they get up to the point where he is going to hand her off to the groom, kisses or whatever, he doesn't cross in front of the daughter. He can just sit down with his wife, right? Her mother. But the daughter now is going to go up the altar with the groom, and she is on the groom's left. So she's putting the groom in a position of honor and respect. And what happens when the pastor or the priest says, "I now pronounce you man and wife," and they turn around and he introduces them as Mr. and Mrs.? The daughter is now on the groom's right, and he has been replaced by the father. So the daughter, it is in the position of honor, respect, and protection. If we knew more of that and we were passing those traditions on, we probably would have less divorce in our society today. So we've got to find a way to honor and respect each other much more today, especially with all the challenges that are coming. So I mentioned success and significance at the beginning. Success is when I add value to myself through competence. Those two back wheels, generally that's what we're working on for ourselves. But significance is when I add value to other people through character, through that front wheel. Jim Collins, author of Good Grade, even said, In his foreword to Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, character is the most important foundation. Just like John Maxwell. Very interesting. And this is just part of his, he said the emphasis is on building character rather than attaining success. If we build character, success will come, but significance will be there first. So as we roll out this tricycle with all of its different aspects, that front character wheel is the significance wheel, and the back wheel is the success wheel. So one of my friends and the one who wrote the foreword to my book was a Hanoi Hilton POW. He was my vice commandant on Squadron Officer School. And Lee says, everybody is in the same situation. He says, we have to guard our character. We're only one choice away from an unethical decision, whether it be peer pressure or maybe the boss telling you to do something. He recognizes, even in the Hanoi Hilton, he had a very unethical situation one day, and a captain had to relieve a lieutenant colonel of his command. We're all in the same boat. A lot of times we talk about sports, right? Sports reveal character, then we can grow character. How many are familiar with Nick Foles? So Nick sat on the bench for, anybody know how many years? I don't know if it was 5 or 7, a long time though, right? Yeah. And when Carson Wentz got hurt before the Super Bowl, 2 weeks before, then Nick had to take over for that, right? And so he became the most valuable player, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year. But it's interesting because when he got up in front of the press, the thing that Nick wanted to talk about was how failure was a part of life.
Our society, the employer, where you would, why you have real raiders, the lot of stars is there. Now, partner, that's the partner, care, growing, rebel failures, I would be of your fire following balance fires. It was, you know, their needs, willingness, honest, resign. So, Val Myers needs to roll and still have it is from me. I think it is from us. But that's the one. I think that's the parents. And this one is for race with your drum.
Powerful message, huh? Character hit. He could have talked about how technically they beat the other team. Could have talked about the leadership or the teamwork that they had out there. Instead, he chose to talk about character. So, where is our moral compass today? And what guides us to true north? And how do we get that direction? It's through that front wheel, that character wheel. So important. So I want to share with you this video, which just sums up all of these things with character. How many have heard of the Hoyt team before? Just out of curiosity. Hopefully not. Yeah, just a couple of here. So hopefully this will mean a lot. Listen to what Rick with cerebral palsy is saying he needs to do for his, and then look at what his dad did for him. And since this came out and it was real popular for a while, Dick has passed away and his son Rick is still carrying on his message.
Yeah, so he has the rest of the or Rick White better know his team boy. And he had heard it in the end. Be prepared. They are in their own right. They see them when they are a hero. Father. But and that get help. That's limitation. Thought. Rick White's fight started and burned 24 years ago. And the umbilical cord was wrapped around strongly.
Worship.
The doctors told Judy Hoyt that their son had failed awfully and would never be able to walk or talk.
This, very important praying. Was
Boy,
very all my way.
so when the Floyd family went to town at 2,
Let's see why it's
Larry
was just cheer.
and responded. His eyes. Pressure.
Oh, yes.
But it's he was 12 with oh machine. Creating blanks.
Oh, but duration. Yes, yes. Without why we go and it goes with the reality.
It was in high school where I first learned of a 5-mile charity road raid for a paralyzed teenager.
I had to do something.
What? Who was a runner? It called an action as a father.
We always just like
Yes. And that was all I needed to hear. Now, at the age of 66 and 44, Nick and Rick have run 950 races, 60 marathons, including their 25th Boston Marathon this year. They started doing triathlon, it's Ironman, the all right and endurance, all the way and carry Rick's pound frame course of a 2-full lap and 12 miles bike ride and 26 miles on. So that thing was really very strong. Lord, well, yeah, right.
place.
But they don't slow down for long.
It's so very training. We're healthy. I think.
But it's Rick's achievements on the sidelines that are most awe-inspiring.
And they're very bold.
He did Rick graduate from high school and went all in college, earning his degree from Boston University and all department.
They don't do employ
Great.
oh cool why
Like none of it simply you can. And they made so many beliefs. Anything is possible.
peace where is she so in trip else and people just
I read that an email they recently received from her big stranger. I write this because my dollar is my dream. I have been nothing worth it. I have been the dollars more than I'm not raising my son the way I'm intended to raise. And up to this point, I was failed. But yet, to me, in a moment's time, I was changed. My heart was broken when I saw how much of a mother's son to put yourself for such agony. He might experience the thrill of the race. Yesterday, I became one without me and more about being my children's father. I'm thanking it's over and over again. It's incredibly in
Billy there
and you were hearing more than a father. You are and most importantly, you're a hero. You're correct. So,
yes you are sorry
Derek,
Pretty powerful message, yeah. It just reminds me that all of us are in different places in our journey in life. Some of us have walked different paths than others, but character is that common language and that foundation of leadership that we all need. Many of you have great character already. Today, I just want to encourage you that if you need to work on your character skills, keep working on your character skills. If you need to be able to reach out and touch other people, don't be afraid to do it. We need more people that are champions of character to be able to go out and make a difference for those people in our world today. So many people are hurting. So many people are lost. They tell us they're lost. Sometimes when I go into schools, kids are they're just screaming for help. And you and I are the answer if we're walking our life with character, especially if we're walking our lives with Christ. So Abraham Lincoln once said, character's like a tree, reputation like a shadow. The shadow is what we think, the tree is the real thing. So I just encourage you to keep that image of the tricycle effect in your mind, character wheel in the front, competence wheels in the back, your technical wheels and your people skill wheels. Most importantly, you in the seat, making the right decision at the right time for the right reason. To make sure that not only are you successful, but that you're adding significance to others around. All right. With that said, I'm just going to put up a little slide here. If you can, give me a little feedback. And I'm just scooting ahead here a little further because I know we're almost out of time. I want to thank you for the opportunity just to be able to share that character message with you today. Happy to stay afterward. Still many people normally come up and talk to me about the technology piece in addition to the ethics piece or the character ethics piece. I'm happy to talk with you about that too. But again, thank you for allowing me to come and share. And I honor you. And so thank you very much.